Salut, c'est Mathieu de Ludovox et aujourd'hui je suis avec Johnny O'Neill. Right? O'Neill? Okay, I didn't mangle anything. So, Johnny is the author of Boss Monster 2 The Next Level.
Hi, well, welcome to a look at Boss Monster 2 The Next Level. Boss Monster, the dungeon building card game, is essentially a tableau building game for 2 to 4 players where what you're doing is you are the villain at the end of a video game style dungeon. Your goal is to build the dungeon that will be both deadly and attractive. So you do that by playing room cards one at a time. And in Boss Monster 2, all of that is also the case. But with Boss Monster 2, we've done a whole new set of cards, 160 cards. All of the room cards, boss cards, and spell cards are all new, and it can stand on its own, or you can shuffle it together with the original as an expansion. The original Boss Monster was one of the biggest Kickstarter success stories out there. It was me and my brother. We did it just as kind of a garage project. We had about 24 playtesters for the original version, and it's gone on to do extremely well. For Boss Monster 2, we had the advantage of a player community of tens of thousands of players. So we had over 200 really committed and active playtesters, and thousands more who gave comments and said, hey, we want this better, we want that better. So Boss Monster 2 is more tuned overall, it's more balanced, and it also introduces some fun new mechanics. So I can show you a little bit on the table here about how the game is played. So just like Boss Monster 1, you are the boss at the end of the dungeon, like Porcus here. And what you're doing is you're building out your dungeon card by card, and your goal is to lure and destroy the heroes that are in town. So heroes are attracted to different kinds of treasure. So the thief, for example, is attracted to money bags. And right now, these dungeons each have 2 money bag icons. The core of the game is basically bidding for these heroes. I want to kill 10 heroes before 5 survive my dungeon. So you and I are, as we're playing, each trying to have the most treasure icons that lure in the right kind of heroes who show up in town, but we also have to make sure our dungeon is deadly. If a hero is killed by your dungeon, he becomes a soul. But if he survives your dungeon, you get a wound. And that's the simple basis that we add the complexity onto.
And you win by having the most souls after the end of the game, and I guess that if you suffer a certain number of wounds, you die.
Yes, so, and the basic rules, the first player to 10 souls by the end of a turn in which everybody's had a chance to act is the winner. If you take 5 wounds, you're out of the game. We do have a variant rule that's very popular where there's no player elimination and you just do souls minus wounds. We recommend that especially for 4-player, or some people combine cards and play 5 or 6 players, and we strongly recommend it for those variants.
Okay, what are the changes, the new mechanics for the Boss Monster 2?
So one of the new mechanics is what we call Dark Heroes. So Dark Heroes, you can improve them as they're moving through an enemy's dungeon by paying them a card. So they start out with 6, but they increase to 9 if you throw a card at them. So that's one of the many ways that we've added a little more cross-table play to Boss Monster 2. Another new mechanic is epic spells. So Super Effective is an example of an epic spell. It gives +2 health, +2 damage to one of your rooms, but if only one hero is lured to your dungeon this turn. If it's a duel, then it's +4. So those give you a little bit more flexibility, more interesting choices to make. Do I hang on to this card for when it's perfect, or do I use it now for an effect that's slightly less strong than a typical spell?
And flavor.
Yeah, there's a lot of flavor in the game. We have a deep love of classic video games, fantasy novels, so there's references to fantasy authors, there's references to classic video games, and then a lot of archetypes, things like a cursed tomb or a lost library that you'd see in any kind of video game or fantasy story.
Okay, and do you have any plans for the future?
We are working on a lot of really cool stuff. We have a couple of games in development that are not Boss Monster related, but that we think the same kind of casual, cool players will like. And of course, we have some new Boss Monster things. We want to make mini bosses, part of Boss Monster 3, and we're working on an expansion for that's really designed to make multiplayer games, like 5 and 6 player games, more viable, because the game was really designed for 2 to 4. A lot of people try to make it to 5 or 6, but we'd like to add a 5th treasure type, add cards that have voting, things like that really take advantage of a bigger game, similar to the way Conspiracy makes Magic more fun for a multiplayer game.
Okay, well, thank you, Johnny, for this overview of the game and, the newness of Boss Monster 2. Will you use Kickstarter again? Because, well, it's been a success for you, so probably you will use it again, but tell me.
Well, Kickstarter is a fun thing to talk about. We are a really nice example of people who are nobodies had a successful Kickstarter. People followed the dream with us, made it much more successful than we expected. But something we've done that other people haven't always been able to do is we went into traditional game stores in a great way. We set the pricing in a way that works for them. We send promotional materials. We try to really make sure that the local game stores who keep the hobby alive are the ones who are getting a lot of the benefit of Boss Monster. And going forward, I don't expect that we'll kickstart the next Boss Monster. Never say never. Maybe in a few years we might need to again. But for now, we think we've hit the level of success where we don't need to. Maybe for a new game, something all new, we might use a Kickstarter just to get a sense of how interested people are, or drive some excitement around the launch. But for Boss Monster, I think we're probably good for a little while.
You're big enough.
Yes, we've earned, I think, $500,000 on Kickstarter, and that's probably fine for now. So,
okay, well, thank you, Johnny, for taking the time to explain all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And see you probably at next GenCon.
All right.
À bientôt sur Ludovox. Salut.